Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here at Mana, see what's going on next, and of course, help us understand the big picture and ultimately just what's going on, right? And if you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, just love teaching people how to trade. Hopefully you can learn a thing or two here today. And my goal is to essentially make sure that you're more self-sufficient, right? Got trading community, trading academy, to basically teach you step by step how to become a better trader, but also provide you a signal so you know how to structure your trades based on the trades that I take. So that is a beneficial feature a lot of folks do like, so check that out in your own time. CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below if that's easier for you. So Mana is interesting, and to say the least, right? And what I mean by that is it's shown to be very, very strong, very potent, but also retrace significantly as well when there's a pullback from Bitcoin. Now, coins like this have a tendency of doing that based on the fact that they're probably still more profitable than not, considering how well they've done, at least over the past few months. Now, I mean by that is, from November to December, there was a parabolic type of shift in momentum for a lot of these types of coins. So in that sense, they're all doing very well. They're maintaining quite nicely considering big picture. I think Mana and a handful of other ones are really, really good coins. Again, I cover those other ones as well, but for the most part here, let's just go ahead and focus on that. Enough rambling. Sorry about that. What I'm getting at is that we're in good shape here. We're above the 200-day set moving average. We actually got a price rejection there, so to speak, yesterday. It's notoriously has never passed the 200-day set moving average since the price has come back down. It's a very good sign. Yes, you get wicked down, but you look more so at the close, not necessarily the range in the day. So yes, yesterday was kind of a weird, crazy day. Bitcoin was 12 to 15% bottom top. We got 18% from Mana. So again, a little bit larger, I would say 1.2, 1.3x to Bitcoin, if you will. That is good in a sense, and if you look at Mana's Bitcoin chart, it also looks very good too. So I do feel like Mana has good long-term potential. That being said, we're still underneath the 50-day set moving average, and that has worked previously as a strong resistance level, and it's had to shoot literally straight through it each time. So we could do the same thing as well. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Mana does that as moving forward, because it has a tendency of having a slight lag to Bitcoin, but when it takes off, it really takes off. So with us having kind of somewhat of a green week, all things considered, we're doing pretty well considering what the circumstances and everything that's happened. So I like the fact that Mana's held up quite nicely. So anyways, that's kind of just a general overview there. When it comes to the actual, RSI, we're still under 50. Not great, but that it is reflective of 50 on the SMA. So those two things kind of coincide together. They're both communicating, and for lack of better terms, it's a really good sign here for Mana, in the sense that once we break above that, that'll be a nice support level. Okay. Again, we still got to break above, so if we can get any kind of sideways action from Bitcoin for the next 2 or 3 days, I'm confident Mana will continue to increase, and it'll probably be more like 1.5 to 2 to 3.5x, depending on, obviously, the stability from Bitcoin. And that has a lot to do with it, so just keep that in mind. It's not codependent on Bitcoin, it's not independent of Bitcoin, but it's codependent, and it basically needs to have some level of success. Most coins are like that in order to thrive. Okay, but we do have potential MACD convergence. You can see that we're starting to dissipate, so to speak, there with the bearish type of control, and that is a good sign as well. So we could see a shift in momentum here soon. So I think now is of all times is probably a pretty good price point. Anything between $2 to $3 for Mana, I think is still viable considering the big picture potential. But we are below both moving averages here. That's not great, so keep that in mind as well. Could work as resistance, as you can see. The 200s previously worked as well that way. And then we're up over 52. So this is a good sign in the big picture, because this will translate to the 1 day and continue to push the price action up. But as we have an RSI over 50, the longer you stay over 50 on the 4 hour, the more likely that we're going to see 50 on the 1 day. And that's ultimately the most important. So this is going to translate nicely into the 1 day, and I like that. But I do also like the fact that, we're kind of riding this little support level there, and it's really nice to see that. Ultimately as well, see if there's anything else, why don't we go ahead and redraw out these lines here, because I haven't covered this in a few days. Let's go ahead and see what kind of potential we could have from Mana, big picture as well. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. I want to identify the 1 hour time frame and see where we're at with the cloud, which is telling us we're getting close to closing our position here soon. But keep in mind, we do have this little type of pennant pattern that's forming. And I talked about this in both my other videos here today. Bitcoin and what was the other one I covered? Not Mana. I'll think of it here in a minute, but oh, Gala, sorry. Yeah, they're all kind of forming similar patterns, right? Again, it's kind of following Bitcoin's behavior. So watch my Bitcoin video if you understand to understand more so what I mean by this. But there was essentially a that's a terrible line, sorry. There's a pattern here that broke out to the upside for Bitcoin, right? It pushed up like that to break through a key level resistance. Well, right now we're kind of stuck at this resistance zone here as well at $2.70 or 271. That could break to the upside. The likelihood of it breaking the upside is much higher than it is coming down based on the fact that we have this momentum. We got this nice little consolidation pattern, and the bulls effectively lost, the bears effectively lost control, and the price continued upwards, right? So that's usually what happens. It's either a short squeeze or just the fact that the bears kind of just give up and let them take over, okay? We could also see too if there's an increase in volume, which there is, basically just telling us that there was as much selling pressure as there was, it wasn't enough to keep the price down. Therefore, with us coming here as well, we could very well see a type of an ascending breakout, or perhaps a secondary, minor or a smaller type of pendant pattern breakout. I just want to urge caution here, and just letting you know that typically when you see two pendant patterns form, the second one is not very strong, or the second one doesn't always happen. So this is kind of a rare occurrence here. We don't see this happen too often, but it may come up, but it may also have lost its volume or volatility, so to speak, or amplitude rather, and it may not have enough juice to get past that. Again, not trying to concern you at all. It needs to consolidate. That's all there is to it. If we get more sideways action at that price point, it'll eventually break above. So that's just kind of how that works. But what I'm getting at here is that the Ichimoku cloud is telling us that we might want to close our position soon because we haven't increased in price enough to want to continue to hold that. And again, this is a conservative indicator. If you are, the type that likes to let it ride, perhaps, or you're day trading, you're watching it closely, let it go, no worries. But if you're in the profit and you got in somewhere in the range of 230 and you are up at this point about 15%, you may want to consider trimming your position. That's not a bad profit to take. Okay. All right. That's big picture there. Let's look at TD sequential. We got some resets here. We hit a 9, of course. We shorted Bitcoin at that point last night and then continued sideways and came back up to a 5, down to a 3. So again, not a lot of telling information here. We could potentially see about 6 more hours of downside. But if it were to come back down, it needs to stay above 257 in order to continue this this pattern. Because if it breaks below 257, then we're making lower highs or higher lows, I believe it would be, and that wouldn't be a good place. All right. So ultimately, that's where we're at there. I would say much better than not. So I would ultimately, if it were to kind of summarize it, Mana does need to break above the resistance level of 270, 271 here soon. That'd be very helpful if it did. But if it doesn't, and we get some consolidation sideways action over throughout the weekend and slowly progresses up, I believe one of these days coming up, we're going to probably see something like this or like this, because it has a tendency of taking off quickly when Bitcoin consolidates and just has some type of consistency. Bitcoin being very volatile lately, Mana hasn't been responding too well to that, and I do think we're due for a breakout just based on the previous patterns. But again, breaking above 270 is a starting point. We ultimately need to get somewhere above 325 slash, let's just go ahead and summarize, 325 to 355, because that is a resistance zone here. We've seen a lot of problems, and until we get there, we're not out of the woods yet, I guess you could say, but a good starting point is 271 or higher. Better case scenario here, again, don't leave just thinking this one thing, but we could potentially still see $5 from Mana in the next couple of months. I think that's very likely. That's why we have a profit target for our community as a swing trade in the 386, based on the fact that 390 is a strong resistance level. I believe we can take profits at that point. So that position is still open, still viable. We'll still hit it, but it's just a matter of time now, right? Bitcoin goes sideways between now and the next couple of months, Mana is going to hit that target easy. It's just all these massive corrections from Bitcoin are causing a ripple, and regardless of how great Decentraland is, it's going to experience some of that same behavior. All in all, good stuff here for Mana. I'm confident it's going to continue to increase, pending Bitcoin doesn't do anything stupid. All right, you can leave with that. That's probably a good way to summarize the conversation here today. Anyways, I hope you learned something. Of course, comment below if you did, and if you're not currently a community member, CryptoCache.tech is the website. Thank you so much to my current members for your support and ongoing belief in the system, because it does take a little time to become a better trader. You can't just do it overnight, and I can tell you my 16 years of trading, it took a while to figure things out, but I think I got it down, and I can assure you, you'll be in good hands if you decide you want to join. Thanks again for your time. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.